I stared at the wedding ring on my dresser, still struggling to accept how easily sacred vows could be discarded. My name is Edgar Thorne, and I'm 33 years old. Each night, I rock my 2-month-old daughter Maxine to sleep in the nursery I painted just weeks before my wife Natalie left us for Logan, her co-worker who had wormed his way into our lives under the guise of late office deadlines. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound, but Maxine's tiny fingers gripping mine reminded me that collapse wasn't an option. Between her midnight feedings, I methodically documented every suspicious bank withdrawal, every dismissive text, every calculated lie. Not for revenge. My daughter deserved a father who chose justice over bitterness. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. The silence in our house felt wrong. For weeks, I'd moved through rooms that still held echoes of what we'd been. The dining room where Natalie and I had planned nursery colors, the living room where we'd assembled the crib together. Now, every space felt hollowed out, stripped of the future we'd imagined. But Maxine needed consistency. I built our days around her schedule, marking each feeding and diaper change in a small notebook that grew to include other entries. $300 withdrawn from our joint account at an ATM near Logan's apartment. A credit card charge at the Renaissance Hotel downtown. Text messages that painted our marriage as suffocating. My dedication to fatherhood as somehow oppressive. Remember those long summer evenings when you were a kid, watching the sun sink while crickets played their constant song? That's how I spent my nights after putting Maxine down, sitting at the kitchen table with my growing collection of evidence, trying to understand how my marriage had crumbled so quietly. "Your mommy and daddy were happy once," I whispered to Maxine during her 2 a.m. feeding, her tiny face peaceful against my chest. "We planned you. We celebrated when we saw those 2 pink lines." My voice caught. We were solid, stable. Or so I'd thought. The house still smelled faintly of the lavender candles Natalie had loved. I packed them away along with her forgotten sweaters and half-empty makeup drawer. Each item felt like handling broken glass, sharp reminders of deliberate deception. How many late meetings had really been rendezvous? How many work texts had been love notes to Logan? But in the quiet moments with Maxine, I found my center. Her needs anchored me to the present. Bottles to warm, onesies to wash, tiny fingernails to trim. I learned to do everything one-handed, keeping her close while managing our new reality. The weight of her against my shoulder became more familiar than sleep. During one bleary dawn, I started a fresh page in my notebook. Not for evidence this time, but for planning, custody arrangements, financial records. A timeline of Natalie's gradual withdrawal from motherhood, starting with refusing night feedings and ending with that final kiss goodbye to our daughter. The morning light crept across Maxine's nursery floor as I rocked her, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "Your mom isn't coming back, sweet girl. But you and me? We're going to be okay." I touched her velvet soft cheek. "We're going to be more than okay." I had trusted in the strength of marriage vows, in the bonds of family. Now I would trust in something more concrete. Documented facts, time-stamped messages, bank statements that told their own story. Each entry in my notebook became a brick in the foundation I was building. Not just evidence, but proof that I could sustain us both through whatever came next. The local coffee shop's early morning playlist drifted through my memory. That old song about picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and starting all over again. Maxine stirred in my arms, her dark eyes finding mine with complete trust. "I promise you," I told her softly, my words carrying the weight of an oath, "we will get through this together." 2 weeks after she left, I heard the back door click open. My hands froze over Maxine's bottle as Natalie walked into our kitchen, like she'd just stepped out for milk. She brushed her hair back, that familiar nervous gesture, while Maxine's cries echoed from the nursery monitor. "I thought you'd be at work," she said, hovering near the counter we'd picked out together last spring. The granite still showed water spots from yesterday's dishes. "Someone needs to care for our daughter." I kept my voice level, though my pulse hammered against my ribs. "Why are you here, Natalie?" She wrapped her arms around herself, designer purse dangling from her elbow. "I'm not happy, Edgar." "I haven't been for a while. Happiness isn't a license to abandon your child." The words came out sharper than I intended, but I couldn't soften them. Not with Maxine's desperate wails filling the air between us. "You don't understand." Natalie's eyes welled up. "Logan sees me, really sees me, not just as a mother or a wife, but as myself. I see you too." I set the bottle down carefully, fighting to keep my hands steady. "I see someone who walked out on a 2-month-old baby. Maxine needs more than words about being seen. She needs her mother." "Don't." Natalie's voice cracked. "Don't use her to guilt me. I'm suffocating here, playing house and pretending everything's perfect." "Perfect?" I almost laughed. "Nothing about 3 a.m. feedings and diaper blowouts is perfect, but it's real. It's what we signed up for when we decided to have a child." She paced the kitchen, heels clicking against tile. "You can't handle this alone. You'll burn out trying to be both parents. Watch me." The certainty in my voice made her stop. "I'll work part-time, hire help when needed, whatever it takes to give Maxine stability." "You're being unreasonable." Her tears spilled over. "We could arrange something. Shared custody once I'm settled with Logan." The casual mention of his name sent fire through my chest. I thought of my notebook upstairs, filled with dates and times and evidence of their betrayal. "Settled? You mean once you're done destroying our family?" "That's not fair." Her voice rose. "I deserve a chance at happiness. And Maxine deserves a mother who shows up for more than dramatic kitchen scenes." Silence fell between us, broken only by Maxine's slowly quieting cries. Natalie stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The man who would have done anything to keep her happy died the night she left. "I should check on her," I said finally. "I could—" Natalie took a step toward the hallway. "No." My tone left no room for argument. "You lost that right when you chose him." She flinched as if I'd struck her. We stood frozen in that moment, the morning sun streaming through windows we'd washed together last spring, highlighting the dust motes dancing between us like all the promises we'd broken. The moment Natalie's heels clicked down our front steps, I pulled out my phone and called Owen. My hands were shaking so bad I had to redial twice. "She showed up here, Owen, like nothing happened, talking about being seen by Logan and finding herself." The words tasted bitter. "I need help before this gets worse." "I'm on my way," Owen said without hesitation. "Don't talk to her again without me present." 40 minutes later, Owen sat at my kitchen table, his briefcase open and legal pad covered in neat notes. Maxine dozed in her swing beside us, her tiny fists clenched tight. The sight of her peaceful face steadied my racing thoughts. "Show me everything you've documented so far," Owen said, adjusting his glasses. I retrieved my notebook from upstairs, the pages already filling with dates, times, and details. I started tracking the night she left. Bank withdrawals, text messages, everything I could think of. Owen flipped through the pages, nodding slowly. "This is good, Edgar. Really good. But we need to file for temporary custody immediately. The longer we wait, the more likely Natalie could try something impulsive." The memory of carrying Maxine alone through those first endless nights flooded back. I'd warmed bottles one-handed while she wailed, changed diapers at 3 a.m., learned every tiny signal of her needs. "What do we need to do?" Owen pulled out a stack of forms. "We'll file for emergency temporary custody. Your documentation shows you're the primary caregiver, and Natalie's abandonment gives us solid grounds." He paused, meeting my eyes. "But Edgar, this is just the beginning. We need to be thorough, systematic. Save every text. Record every interaction. Document every expense for Maxine's care." For the next 2 hours, we filled out paperwork. Owen's steady presence kept me focused when memories threatened to derail my concentration. By afternoon, he'd filed everything electronically with the court. "The temporary order should be granted within days," Owen said, packing up. "This will protect Maxine while we build the larger case." For the first time since Natalie left, I felt something like hope. The law had steps, procedures, a path forward through this mess. I walked Owen to the door, Maxine cradled against my chest. "Thank you," I said, "for dropping everything to help us." Owen squeezed my shoulder. "That's what friends do. We'll get through this." The next morning, a sharp knock interrupted Maxine's breakfast. When I opened the door, a man in a pressed shirt held out a thick envelope. "Edgar Thorne? You've been served." My stomach dropped as I took the papers. Inside was a petition from Natalie, demanding full custody of Maxine and substantial financial support, while she established stability in her new situation with Logan. She claimed I was emotionally unstable and preventing her from maintaining a relationship with her child. The papers trembled in my grip. Every word was a calculated lie, designed to paint me as the villain while she tried to take my daughter. The same daughter she'd walked out on without a backward glance. I stared at the signature at the bottom. The familiar loops of Natalie's name now twisted into something unrecognizable. This wasn't just about leaving anymore. She was trying to dismantle everything I'd built to protect Maxine, to erase all evidence of her own abandonment. The process server's car pulled away as I stood frozen in the doorway, the weight of the papers in my hands suddenly as heavy as the fight ahead. I laid out my evidence notebook on the kitchen table, its pages dog-eared and worn from constant use. Maxine slept in her bassinet nearby while I worked, her soft breaths keeping time as I sorted through another stack of bank statements. The pattern was there in black and white. Regular withdrawals from our joint account, always on Friday afternoons, always matching the rate at Logan's downtown loft complex. I'd called their leasing office, posing as a potential tenant, jotting down their pricing without hesitation. The numbers lined up perfectly. My pen scratched across the legal pad as I logged each transaction. $3,000 here, $2,500 there. Money we'd saved for Maxine's future, now funding their new life together. The betrayal burned fresh with each entry. I reached for my coffee, long since gone cold, and rubbed my eyes. The clock on the microwave blinked 2:47 a.m. These late nights had become routine, feeding Maxine, changing her, then diving back into paperwork while she drifted off again. My body ached for sleep, but the evidence wouldn't collect itself. The hotel receipts were next. I'd traced their pattern through credit card statements, mapping out their meetings before everything fell apart. The Marriott downtown, always booked under Logan's name but paid for with Natalie's card. Dates and times that matched perfectly with her late nights at the office. My phone buzzed. Another text from Natalie. I'd started taking screenshots of every message, especially the cruel ones. "Playing daddy must be exhausting," she'd written last week. "Good thing Logan knows how to help me relax." Each barb was carefully logged, another brick in the wall of truth I was building. The familiar cry from the bassinet pulled me from my work. "Coming, sweetheart," I murmured, scooping Maxine up. She settled against my chest as I warmed a bottle one-handed, a skill I'd mastered through necessity. Standing there in the kitchen's dim light, feeding my daughter while staring at the scattered evidence of her mother's betrayal, something cracked inside me. My eyes burned as I looked down at Maxine's innocent face. How could anyone walk away from this? But the tears wouldn't help. I blinked them back and focused on the warmth of Maxine in my arms, on the solid reality of her presence. This was why I stayed up night after night, documenting every detail, not for revenge, but for her future. Back at the table, Maxine dozed against my shoulder while I organized another section of the notebook. Hotel receipts, bank statements, text messages, each category neat and chronological. Owen had taught me to be methodical, to build our case like laying stones in a foundation. My fingers traced over a particularly detailed entry. The night Natalie had mocked my dad routine in a group text to her friends, claiming Logan was twice the man I'd ever be. The words still stung, but now they were just evidence. Another piece in the puzzle that would protect Maxine. I leaned back in my chair, surveying the stacks of documents spread across the table. The notebook had grown thick with proof. Undeniable, documented truth. Every receipt told a story. Every bank statement revealed a choice. Every cruel text message showed her true character. In the quiet of that late hour, watching papers flutter in the ceiling fan's breeze, I realized what I'd built. Not just a collection of evidence, but a fortress of facts. Each page was another stone in a wall that would stand against any lie Natalie tried to tell. The midnight shadows stretched long across Maxine's nursery as I paced, trying to soothe her through another round of teething pain. My feet traced the familiar path between crib and window. Each step weighted with exhaustion. The house felt impossibly empty at this hour, filled only with her whimpers and my whispered comfort. "Shh, sweetheart. Daddy's here." The words caught in my throat. Daddy's here. Because Mommy left. Because she chose someone else over this precious life in my arms. Maxine's tiny fingers curled against my shirt as her cries finally began to soften. I sank into the old rocking chair, the one I'd refinished while Natalie was pregnant. Back when we were still planning our future together. Back when promises meant something. The moonlight caught Maxine's dark curls, so like her mother's. My chest tightened. Would she grow up wondering why she wasn't enough? Why her mother could walk away so easily? The questions I'd been holding back crashed over me like a wave. Something broke then. A dam I'd built of careful routines and determined planning. Silent tears fell into Maxine's blanket as I clutched her closer. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice cracking. "I'm so sorry I couldn't keep our family whole." My shoulders shook with quiet sobs. All the sleepless nights, the endless documentation, the constant vigilance. It felt overwhelming in the darkness. "But I promise you this," I choked out, pressing my lips to her forehead. "I will never fail you, never leave you. You'll always know you're loved." Maxine stirred, her eyes finding mine in the dim light. So trusting, so innocent. Fresh tears spilled as I realized the weight of that trust, the responsibility of being her entire world. The night stretched endless until dawn finally broke. I must have dozed in the chair because Owen's knock startled me awake. He took one look at my face and understood. "Rough night?" he asked quietly, following me to the kitchen while I prepared Maxine's bottle. "Just hit me hard sometimes." My voice was still raw. All of it. Owen leaned against the counter, his presence steady and familiar. "You're allowed to break sometimes, Edgar. Doesn't make you weak. Feels weak." I tested the formula temperature on my wrist. All this evidence, all these preparations, and still you're human," Owen finished. "Truth wins slow, but it wins. We're building something solid here, brick by brick." He squeezed my shoulder, his grip grounding me. "You're doing right by her. That's what matters." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. Owen understood anyway. He'd been there through every step, watching me piece together our case while piecing together my life. Maxine's morning babbles drifted from her bouncer, pulling me back to the present. I lifted her into my arms, studying her bright eyes. The vulnerability of last night still ached in my chest. But Owen was right. We were building something solid. Each piece of evidence, each documented betrayal, each step toward justice, it all led to this moment. Her tiny hand patted my cheek, and I managed a small smile. The next confrontation was coming, and it would change everything. The doorbell rang just after midnight. I'd been sorting through bank statements at the kitchen table, red pen marking each withdrawal that had funded Natalie's new life with Logan. My spine stiffened at the sound. No one came by this late unless something was wrong. Through the peephole, I saw her. Natalie stood on our porch. No, my porch now. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her designer clothes wrinkled. She clutched a battered suitcase like a shield. I opened the door, but stayed firmly in the doorway. The autumn air carried a hint of her familiar perfume, triggering memories I'd rather forget. Remember the betrayal, I told myself. Remember the empty nursery. Edgar, she whispered, her voice breaking. Logan's gone. He used me. Took everything and left. A sob caught in her throat. I'm broke. Please, I need to come home. My chest tightened at the word home. Once, I'd believed we were building that together. The taste of bitter coffee from endless late nights with Maxine filled my mouth. Please, she repeated, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. What did you expect? My voice came out steady, controlled. That you could abandon your daughter, drain our accounts, and then just walk back in when your fantasy collapsed? I made a mistake. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I know that now. We can fix this. We can be a family again. While you were chasing freedom with Logan, I said, I was here. Every night, every fever. Every milestone you missed because you chose him. I gestured to the quiet house behind me. I built stability for Maxine. Real stability. Not promises you'll break again. Edgar, please. You don't understand how sorry I am. I'll do anything. I turned to the kitchen table, gathering the stack of documents I'd prepared for exactly this moment. Bank statements, text messages, hotel receipts. The custody filing papers sat on top, already processed. I understand perfectly, I said, showing her the evidence. Every choice you made is right here. Every lie. Every betrayal. I met her eyes. It's too late, Natalie. You can't undo this. She stared at the papers, reality crashing over her. Her legs seemed to give out as she sank onto the porch steps, shoulders shaking with sobs. But our daughter, she pleaded, is asleep upstairs, safe and loved. She hasn't asked for you in weeks. The words hit hard. I saw her flinch. That's what happens when you walk away from an infant. They adapt. They move on. I'm her mother. You were her mother, I corrected quietly. Now you're just someone who left. The courts will decide what role you get to play going forward. More tears fell as she hugged herself, looking small and lost on my porch. For a moment, I remembered the woman I'd married. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't trust. I should go, she whispered finally. I nodded, stepping back inside where my evidence lay spread across the table. The door closed with a soft click that felt somehow final. Through the window, I watched her gather her suitcase with trembling hands. She glanced back once, makeup-stained face ghostly in the porch light, then disappeared into the night. The courthouse corridors echoed with our footsteps as Owen and I made our way to courtroom B. My evidence notebook, now bound professionally and indexed, felt heavy in my hands. 2 months of late nights, careful documentation, and quiet determination had led to this moment. Ready? Owen asked, adjusting his tie. I nodded, thinking of Maxine safe with my sister. The familiar ache in my chest tightened. I hadn't missed a single bedtime story until today. Inside, Natalie sat with her attorney, her hair perfectly styled, and wearing a conservative blue dress that screamed, "Responsible mother." Our eyes met briefly before she looked away. The confidence she'd shown in her legal filings seemed to waver. "All rise," the bailiff called as Judge Marquez entered. Her reputation for protecting children's interests was exactly what we needed. Owen moved with practiced efficiency, laying out our case. Your Honor, we have extensive documentation of Mrs. Thorne's abandonment of her infant daughter and financial misconduct. He presented the bank statements first. Each withdrawal flashed on the courtroom's display screen. Thousands transferred to Logan's accounts. Joint savings drained for hotel stays. Mrs. Thorne left her 2-month-old daughter without warning, Owen continued, his voice steady. She then used marital assets to fund her new lifestyle, while Mr. Thorne solely provided for their child. Natalie's attorney jumped in. Your Honor, my client was suffering from severe postpartum depression. She needed time to stabilize her mental health. Interesting timing, Owen countered, pulling up text messages. These exchanges between Mrs. Thorne and her paramour show extensive planning before Maxine's birth. The messages appeared on screen. I forced myself to breathe as Natalie's words glowed for all to see. Can't wait to ditch the dad routine and start living, and he's so boring with all the baby prep. Judge Marquez leaned forward. Mrs. Thorne, did you seek any medical treatment for postpartum depression? No, Your Honor. Natalie's voice shook. Owen pressed on, introducing the nanny cam footage. The screen showed me feeding Maxine, reading to her, singing her to sleep. Then came the daycare records, every pickup, every drop-off, all my signatures. Mr. Thorne has been the sole caregiver, Owen emphasized. He's maintained stable employment while ensuring Maxine receives consistent care and attention. Judge Marquez turned to Natalie. Mrs. Thorne, these bank records show substantial transfers to an account held by... She consulted the papers. Logan Matthews. Can you explain these transactions? Natalie's perfectly maintained composure cracked. He said he would take care of me, she whispered. We were going to start fresh. By abandoning your infant daughter? The judge's tone could have frozen water. I made a mistake. Natalie's voice rose. I'm her mother. I have rights. Rights, Judge Marquez repeated slowly, come with responsibilities. She closed the file before her and straightened in her chair. I've reviewed all evidence thoroughly. Given the severity of these revelations, I'm prepared to make my ruling. The courtroom fell silent. My heart hammered against my ribs as the judge drew breath to speak. That moment stretched like glass about to shatter, holding all our futures in its fragile paws. Judge Marquez's words rang with finality through the hushed courtroom. Given the evidence presented, this court finds overwhelming cause to grant full legal and physical custody to Edgar Thorne. My breath caught as she continued, each ruling landing like hammer blows. The family home will remain with Mr. Thorne to maintain stability for Maxine. Mrs. Thorne will pay child support in accordance with state guidelines. The judge paused, adjusting her glasses. Furthermore, Mrs. Thorne's visitation will be supervised until she demonstrates consistent commitment to her parental responsibilities. I remembered the countless nights I'd spent organizing documents at that kitchen table, wondering if truth would be enough. Now it was. As for Mr. Matthews, Judge Marquez's tone sharpened. Given the evidence of his role in destabilizing this family and misappropriating marital assets, he is barred from any contact with the minor child. This court will not allow predatory influences near Maxine Thorne. Owen's hand found my shoulder, squeezing gently. We'd done it. All those careful notes, all those sleepless nights, they'd built the foundation for this moment. Mr. Thorne, the judge addressed me directly. The court recognizes your unwavering commitment to your daughter's well-being. Continue to document everything. This order can be reviewed if circumstances change significantly. Thank you, Your Honor. I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. We're adjourned. The gavel crack echoed with something like justice. Outside in the marble hallway, reality settled over everyone differently. Owen gathered our files, his satisfied nod worth 1,000 words. But it was Natalie who drew every eye. She stumbled against the wall, her perfect composure shattering. Tears streaked her makeup as she slid to the floor, her attorney awkwardly patting her shoulder before retreating. The sight twisted something in my chest. Not regret, exactly, but a deep sadness for what could have been. "Logan's gone," she choked out as I passed. "He took everything and disappeared. I have nothing left." The words that had once held such power over me now felt hollow. I'd already grieved the woman I thought I'd married. This stranger in expensive clothes, crying on courthouse marble, had made her choices. Owen's hand found my shoulder again. "You did this right, Edgar. Played it straight. Kept your cool. Protected your daughter. That's what the judge saw." I nodded, thinking of Maxine waiting at my sister's house. My little girl who'd never known the chaos of revolving doors or divided loyalties. The evidence notebook had served its purpose, not as a weapon, but as a shield for our future. "Let's go get your daughter," Owen said quietly. We walked toward the courthouse exit, leaving Natalie's sobs behind us. The afternoon sun streamed through tall windows, warming the marble floors. In a few minutes, I'd hold Maxine again, breathe in her baby powder scent, and know that we were finally, legally, irrevocably safe. Each step took us further from the courtroom, from the tears, from the months of uncertainty. My shoulders felt lighter, even as my heart carried the weight of what had been lost. But I knew this weight would ease with time, with Maxine's laughter, with the quiet certainty that I'd fought the right way. Not for revenge, but for peace. That night, after saying goodbye to Owen and collecting Maxine from my sisters, I carried my sleeping daughter into our quiet house. The rooms felt different now, no longer spaces haunted by absence, but walls that sheltered our future. My footsteps were steady on the stairs, each one carrying us toward a peace I'd fought so hard to secure. The nursery welcomed us with familiar shadows. I'd spent countless hours in here, building the oak crib piece by piece, while Maxine napped in her portable bassinet. The wood still carried the fresh scent of varnish, mixing with the powder-sweet smell of clean baby. Remember those long nights, sanding each slat until it was silk-smooth, checking every joint twice? Back then, the work had been a refuge from darker thoughts, from the betrayal that threatened to consume me. Maxine stirred as I lowered her onto the crib mattress, her tiny fingers flexing in sleep. The soft blue glow of the baby monitor cast gentle light across her features, the same dark curls as mine, the peaceful expression that made every struggle worth it. I adjusted her blanket, tucking it just so, the way she liked it. The monitor's steady light caught my eye again. Such a simple thing, that electronic guardian. But tonight, it represented something more. The watchful care that had documented truth, that had protected us both when chaos threatened. Just like the notebook full of evidence that had won our case, this quiet sentinel would keep faithful watch through the night. Maxine's hand found my finger as I stood there, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so small. The touch shot straight to my heart, and I felt months of tension begin to unknot. We'd done it. We'd faced the storm and emerged stronger, not bitter. The evidence notebook hadn't been a weapon but a shield, protecting this precious piece we'd won. Looking down at my daughter, I remembered the day Natalie left, how the fear had threatened to swallow me whole, but fear hadn't won. Truth had. Truth in careful documentation, in steady persistence, in choosing right over easy. The peace settling over us now wasn't just absence of conflict. It was the presence of something stronger. My voice came soft in the dim room, a whisper meant for Maxine, but really for my own heart. Peace comes when truth replaces fear in your home. She sighed in her sleep, still holding my finger, while the monitor's blue light kept its gentle vigil. Standing there, I felt the last weight lift from my chest. Whatever came next, we would face it together, in this home built on truth and justice instead of shifting sand. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.